What's up? We're going to get a second video today. I found the timestamp on Sam Hyde's podcast where he talks about debt, homeownership, and crypto. Well, Bitcoin in particular. So Sam's talking about the downside of homeownership, which is essentially owning an asset. You get taxed for life. All right, enjoy.
I always heard to pay off my debt. Pay off your debt. You should buy a house. Every American wants to buy a house. This is how you get rich. You buy a house. You pay off your debt. You don't have any debt. You don't want debt. That's bad. Debt's very bad. I'm in so much debt right now. I'm probably in $100,000 worth of debt. I probably have $100,000 worth of debt. Do you know what the negative consequences of me having $100,000 worth of debt is? I got a phone call that I don't pick up. You can't. There's no debtor's prison. The only negative is if I ever wanted to buy a house, which I don't want to do because that's retarded. Because the real estate market is in a bubble. Why would you buy a house while the real estate market's in a bubble? I guess my longest term plan would be to get rich enough that I can buy a modest house, cash, I don't know, or just have enough assets that my credit score is not comparatively as important. But the short-term debt thing, I mean, I know, Julian, doesn't debt bother you?
No. Dude, I've been mad that...
You pay your car, I guess you pay your car bill because you have to, because you repo your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, you taught me not to really give a shit about that. You and then, I forget his name, there's this one real estate dude, but he has, like, a podcast talking about, like, personal finance.
Robert Kiyosaki?
No. He's like a bald Texas white dude.
Oh.
But yeah, he's very like it's not worth like
the thing about debt is that every rich person uses debt. Every rich person is always in debt. They're in millions of dollars of debt. Because what debt is you get to use somebody else's money now, and you don't pay taxes on it. When you if you get a loan, I just took out a collateralized loan for $20,000 because I want to buy a Pontiac Firebird. So I'm not paying taxes on that $20,000. It's not the same as cashing out of stock market or Bitcoin or anything like that. So I'm not paying taxes on it, and I don't have to pay it. I don't have to pay that back for years, which this is probably not that interesting to people. Anyway, my point is that if you're the type of person, if you've heard from your parents that you have to you can't be in debt. You don't want to be in debt. Buy a house. Go buy a house right away. Buy a house right now. That's the only real value of real estate. You got to buy a house. Just start watching YouTube videos about money and realize that that's retarded. That's my only point.
I feel like that's one of the first things you learn watching YouTube videos about money.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common sentiment. I think
it's like entry.
Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Anton Creel. Your personal house is not an asset, and that makes sense to me.
I'd say if you own land, that's different than owning a house.
I haven't looked into. I don't know about land ownership. I mean,
I think owning land's probably just pretty fire.
Well, I think the thing people don't count on is property tax. Property tax will take an investment of like $100,000 or whatever. Property tax will take whatever your investment is, and regardless of where the value of the thing goes, just over 100-year period, paying 2% or whatever percent property tax, it's just going to make your investment dwindle. It's not like buying something like metals or like even the S&P 500 mutual fund, even though mutual funds are really probably a bad idea because they overweight stocks that are not the up and coming tech stocks. Like you buy a mutual fund, you're also buying shares of like ExxonMobil and like legacy companies that are not going to be around in 50 years. So it's kind of retarded. And they're also companies that are not going to be priced into the upcoming hype of the next 10 years or whatever. Anyway, land. Oh yeah. The thing that worries me about land and real estate especially is, for example, I think Biden and Kamalama Ding Dong were proposing some kind of like 3% house tax on top of your local property tax or something. That's the thing that bothers me is if you buy land or you buy real estate, you don't really own it. You are kind of still renting it from the state. So if you don't pay your property tax, you don't pay your rental fee to the state, they take it away from you. You know what I mean?
That is kind of crazy.
That's crazy to me. It's not like that's why I like Bitcoin so much, is because if you have Bitcoin, you actually do own it. If you have control over the private keys, you are the owner of this digital bearer bond thing, essentially.
Yeah.
And the same thing with physical metals. Like it's not the best idea to have a bunch of physical metals in a cardboard box in your house, but if you do that, you at least own that shit, you know?
Yeah.
And if they want to take it away, you can make you can hide it, let's say. But this that is not true for real estate and for land, because you'll get your investment will dwindle with taxes. You gotta just do the long math. You gotta get out a piece of pen and paper and do the math and see if it's worthwhile, and then also factor in the risk if we're gonna have some crazy socialist regime that starts seizing people's houses. Because I would want a nice house. I'd want the type of house that a socialist regime would want to seize. They'd take one look at my white ass and say, you know what, these should be condos for communities.
That's crazy to think about. You don't really own land, even if you own it.
Oh yeah, isn't that wild?
Not only will they take the land from you, but they'll put you in jail.
You're still renting it. You're still paying. Yeah. You're paying yearly.
It's like moving into a neighborhood during the New York mob era, and even if you're paying rent, you still have more rent to pay. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
You go buy a house straight cash right now, and you're still going to be paying rent.
Yeah.